Blog Talk Radio.
From Winston-Salem, it's Sunday Night Dead!
The scariest thing you've ever heard. The boy band, and you're listening to our friends on Sunday Night Dead.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Night Dead. This is Matthew Slozer from Autumn Paranormal in beautiful Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for closing it out with us tonight. This is a show I've been looking forward to for a while. It's always great to meet new people when we do these shows, but it's also great when you get to have guests on that you have known for a while, and we have two great guests on tonight that I have known for some time here. But first, let's introduce our crew here tonight. Back from Zombie Bowl, my technical assistant, Vincent. How's it going, man?
Thanks, Matt. It's good to be back, although I have to say, Zombie Bowl was awesome this year. So really looking forward to seeing who ends up playing next year, but it was a lot of fun. By the way, I don't know if you're noticing the noise outside, but your end dust comment last week has once again annoyed the orb community, and they're once again picketing our studio. So if you get any disruptions today, you know what that is.
Oh wow, I didn't notice that. It looks like I just thought it was snowing outside, but okay. I guess the orbs are back, and once again they're ticked off at us, but we'll deal. And also with me tonight from Emerald Coast Paranormal Concepts, Tracy Todd. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good, Matthew. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. So the orbs are upset again.
Hopefully they'll get over it.
Well, hopefully, for those of you who aren't familiar, we have a long and tenuous history with the orbs out there, and they cause lots of tech issues from time to time. So hopefully that doesn't cause us any problems tonight. But I do want to say one thing, Tracy, that we're going to have to do a future show on house cleansings. And I was just thinking I'll give some little advice here. Do you know how you how somebody can cleanse their house if they have an orb problem?
Pledge?
Or end dust. Either one will work. So it looks like a blizzard outside the studio now. The orbs are pissed. All right. Also with us tonight from Colorado Shadow Investigations in Colorado, of course, Luana Kurz. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing great. How are you surviving this? I guess most of the country is getting pounded by this storm. I know my friends in the Northeast back home are getting ready to get another pounding. You survive the storm, Luana? I saw the traffic accidents out there.
Actually, the high country got really pounded up in the mountains, but our where I live down in the Littleton area is it was snowing yesterday and today. In fact, I'm looking out my window because every 5 minutes the weather changes, and everything that we got yesterday in my front yard is completely melted off. There's nothing on the roads. It's only in my backyard, which hasn't seen the sun in a little bit. So not much at all accumulation down here.
Oh wow!
But it's been cold. Yeah.
It's weird. We had it was like 70s today. Felt gorgeous. We'll get ice tomorrow night. It'll be like 17 overnight tomorrow night, and then we'll be like 30 tomorrow. So we're in that kind of yo-yo phase.
Yeah, you know what was really crazy? Colorado, I think it was like last week. I posted a picture on my Facebook, but we had it was sunshine and beautiful during the day, and then all of a sudden we got rain, and then it started hailing, and then it started thundering and lightning in February, which I was like, what? That's unusual for Colorado, and then it snowed. So we have all different conditions in one day. It's crazy weather out here this time of year.
We are the weirdest thing, and I just got to add that yes, this is Sunday Night Dead and not the Weather Channel, but I'll add this one piece because it's really weird. When I moved down to North Carolina, they told me about this old wives' tale, this sounds really odd, but if you get thunder in the winter, it'll snow 10 days later. And just statistically, that sounds like, such a far time off weather-wise to have it happen. But it is the weirdest thing. Definitely over half the time, if we get a thunderstorm in the winter, we'll get snow 10 days out from that thunderstorm. It is really bizarre, and I'm sure there's some logic behind how it works. But again, just if you'd say 3 days or something, that would make more sense to me. 10 days out just statistically sounds like there'd be a lot of room for error there.
Well, see, we got there's something similar to that here, Matt. If you hear thunder, within 2 or 3 hours, some jackass is going to get struck by lightning on the golf course.
I'm sure you're in the lightning strike and lightning fatality capital of the world down there in Florida. All right, well let's bring on our guests here. First, Tammy McGarry Nickel, who has spent integrated physical therapist, and she spent 3 years in Japan studying different energetic healing modalities. And I know we've talked, particularly Luana and myself have talked before about the whole energy and health and the relationship with the spirits, which is why I really wanted to do this show. And so she's studied Shiatsu, Reiki, Tai Chi, and if I pronounce this wrong, please forgive me, Qigong, and just works with the whole mind-body connection and the relationship between energy and health. So let's bring on Tammy McGarry-Nickel. How are you doing tonight, Tammy?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. It's a
Yay.
wonderful Sunday evening here in North Carolina.
I know. Thanks for having me on the show. Here's my Weather Channel plug. It's beautiful. It's sunny. It's California. So you guys need to come out this way. You need to come to the West Coast.
Now, are you out of the drought area? Is that only because you're farther up north, right? So are you getting the drought at all, or?
Yes, we did, and we just started getting rain. It's been raining for a few days, although today was really pretty. But we have had terrible drought up in the Bay Area, and we're happy to get the rain. So, but I'm so glad to not be in the snowy, cold weather.
Well, that brings us to our next guest, which I have to say, the storm they're getting, and this is really becoming a weather show, at least how we're starting off here. Yeah. But I know they're getting ready to get pounded again tonight into tomorrow, and I guess it's going to pass the record for, I survived. I was in grad school up there the winter of '94, which was, in my opinion, sheer hell, part of why I wanted to get out of snowy areas. And then we had the winter of '96 right after that, which was pretty bad. And those are 1 and 2 as far as the heaviest snowfalls, and I guess they're going to break it after the storm comes or come really close to it. So introduce the next guest, someone that I've had the, one thing I'll add, I've had the blessings in my life to have a number of friends of mine that I'm still friends with today that I've known since I was really, really small. Some pre-kindergarten, some from kindergarten on, some from very early elementary school on, and this is one such friend. I've known him since kindergarten, Dr. Darin Mazepa, a second-generation chiropractor and innovator in the field of healing and personal empowerment. He teaches that health is determined by the mind-body connection, and his office, Vitality Natural Health Center in Emmaus, Pennsylvania, has been awarded Best of the Valley in 2006 for chiropractic and 2011 for wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, Darin Mazepa.
Hey,
how you doing tonight?
I'm well. How about you?
Doing great. I'll also add that Darin has taught my one son, who's all into numbers and things, some statistics and card games. So that's another claim to fame for you, Darin, is Josh will always remember you as the card guy.
Math is cool.
Absolutely.
Hi, Darin.
Hi, Tammy.
When you came on, my dog is in the background, and he did a big sigh from this dog. I think your energy blasted through or something. There you go.
Nice. I have that effect on the four-legged. What can I say?
I know. There you go. Okay, I sighed too. I sighed too.
To keep the weather theme going, Matthew, I'd like to report that apparently tonight the Greater Lehigh Valley officially is a bullet dodger. It's going to be Philadelphia and south that get slammed. We might get an inch or two of snow, and it'll definitely be in the nuisance category.
Oh, wow.
I just looked out my window, and it's not doing anything at all.
Nice. Well, good for you guys, because I know, one thing that's different here in the South, and I'm not sure how it is in some other parts of the country, but, the Northeast, particularly since the towns are so old, and a lot of them were built kind of pre-car or when cars weren't so common, the whole buildings and the streets and everything are so much closer together than at least I see down here in the Carolinas. And so when you get 5.5 feet of snow, during the season, you run out of places to put it, and there's all kinds of issues. I don't miss this at all, and I've seen some posts from some friends of the whole, people putting chairs in their parking spots, and then people, stealing a parking spot that somebody dug out, and there's stories of fights, and not necessarily in Allentown, but I know in other areas, people getting physically hurt for taking people's parking spots. So I certainly don't miss that quandary of where to go with the snow.
This one has been a strange one because we've had no thaw. It's just been storm on top of storm on top of storm. I probably have close to 3 feet of snow around my house in my yard.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Tracy, when you go ahead. Sorry. I was just gonna say, Tracy, when are you moving up? When are you moving up to Pennsylvania?
You funny man.
I would say the opposite. Dude, do you have a sofa?
No, ain't no way, man. No way.
Well, I know we have talked a lot about just in general when we talk different groups about spirits and different things going on here. There's a lot of talk about energy, and certainly that is my belief that a lot of what we're interacting with is some type of form of energy that interacts with us. And I just wanted to get into, because I found this really interesting, because I know both of you work with energy from a totally different end of things, from how it interacts with the body and healing. And so I thought this would be a pretty interesting topic. It's a little different from what we've done the last couple weeks, but I think it would be interesting to explore this. But before we get into it, just a little bit, I'll start with you first, Darin. If you can just let us know kind of how you got involved in your field, and kind of how your interest led you to that in the first place.
Okay. As you said in my bio, I'm a second-generation chiropractor. My dad practiced chiropractic for 42 years before retiring, and when I was 17 years old, he took me to a seminar in New York that I was happy to go because it was an excuse to go to New York City. But what it turned out to be, which I didn't know, was it was a big pep rally. And I got there and I was just surrounded by these people who just loved what they did, had such passion about chiropractic, and it just totally switched me on. And by the end of that weekend, I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, I want to be a chiropractor. Again, unbeknownst to me, that was totally planned. He totally duped me, and he knew exactly what he was doing, and it worked. So I was in chiropractic college in Atlanta, Georgia, and I started hearing whisperings about this stuff called network chiropractic or network spinal analysis. And it was kind of taboo and off the radar and banned from campus and whatnot because it wasn't mechanical. It wasn't just finding bones out of place and adjusting them. It was much more spirit-oriented, much more nervous system-oriented, and people had these huge emotional, physical, metaphysical releases with the work. And, of course, that immediately tweaked my interest because it was more. I've always had a concept or an understanding of spirit and energy since I was a kid, and this was a way to actually kind of harness that and make a profession out of it.
Oh, awesome. Tammy, how about you? Same question.
Okay. So I became a physical therapist due to my own personal interaction with physical therapy, very traditional physical therapy. However, I had gotten very sick and had become paralyzed from the neck down, and I had to go through rehab and kind of learn how to do everything all over again. And I did recover, but I had the most amazing physical therapist who helped me. And after that experience, I went to PT school. And right after PT school, my husband got transferred to Japan. So off I went as a new grad, and all of a sudden I was open to a whole new world. And that world introduced me to acupressure, which is shiatsu, and introduced me to the energy systems of the body. I studied Reiki. I personally became a fanatic of Tai Chi and Qigong, which are moving your energy of your body to heal it and keep it in optimal health. 3 years studying there, I came back and I found out about a therapy called cranial sacral therapy. And through the studying of cranial sacral therapy, I was just introduced even more deeply to the energies of the body, the mind-body connection, how you think, how you feel, how your thoughts totally manifest into your physical body. And more of my work took me, hands-on work with clients took me to all kinds of interesting places. You can tap in and dialogue with any part of the body, the energy of that body. You can talk to cells. You can talk to organs. You can talk to the energy. Much of my work ended up going back into past lives or various experiences a person has had in this lifetime. It just keeps opening up more and more where a person's energetic body is being affected, or by where it's being affected. So I keep growing with it. And lately, the last couple of years, I've been doing much more off-body work. And so just doing distant energy work, because you don't have to have the person right in front of you to work on them. You just tap into their energetic spirit body. I work a lot with the angels, and I work a lot with various spirit guides. And it's all sort of about tuning in, listening, and trusting your intuition. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome.
Right on.
If anyone has a question tonight, our number to call in, 646-929-2384. And kind of a follow-up on that one, Tammy. So then how do you perceive, hopefully this makes sense. I ask a lot when people come on that have any type of psychic ability, kind of how they actually perceive getting that information. And what's interesting is the wide variety of how people perceive things. I'm curious, when you work with a person's energy, how do you actually perceive that? How does that information come across to you?
Several ways. And it's a little different if it's hands-on versus distant. So if I'm working with a client hands-on, I tune in, my hands are on them, and I tune into their cranial sacral rhythm, which is a rhythm within the body, a natural innate rhythm within the body that is your cerebral spinal fluid pumping up and down your spinal cord and through your brain, and it's something you can't consciously control. So tuning into that rhythm, and when it's turned off, when it's turned on, is a way of working with that person's energy. And what ends up happening for me is I can sense a lot through my hands. So I feel energy, heat, vibration, quivering, pulsing. I can sense the energy field around the person's body with my hands, where it's blocked and not going. And then I get a lot of visuals. So I don't tend to hear anything, like nobody's talking in my head or anything, but I get a lot of visual input that tells me a lot. That I use even more when I do off-body work, when they're not in front of me to talk to. So, of course, I dialogue with the client when they're in front of me, but when they're not in front of me, I just tune into their energy field, and then I use my body my cranial sacral rhythm becomes their rhythm. So I can feel my rhythm, and I get the information from that client through my rhythm because it becomes theirs. And then I start seeing all kinds of visuals, and that is how their energy is communicating and interpreted for me. So those are the two main things. I use the cranial sacral rhythm, and I get visual when it's off-body work. And then when I'm working with them, I talk to the client. I talk to their body parts. I can communicate silently, or I can communicate audibly, and I sense a lot with my hands.
Now, is it when you get the visuals? See if this makes sense. Is it visual like pictures of things, or do you actually visually perceive the energy?
Both. Sometimes you can see the energy as colors, or you can see it moving in a certain pattern. But mostly, the visuals could either be an event they actually experienced in their life that I somehow tapped back into, or has come into that I tuned into. So sometimes I see things that they exactly in their life, and then sometimes it's symbolic. It's based on their current vibration that their body's vibrating at and whatever's the highest vibration frequency that they're wanting to come through. So I always set an intention to ask what it is the highest priority message that this person needs help with or has asked about or whatever. And then based on that, I start seeing things like maybe an entire, I'm trying to see how to explain it. I could see, like, if a person's really scared, I might see the vision of them huddling in a corner or shaking, and maybe a blackness around them, and so it starts to play out like a story, like a movie in my head. Sometimes it's linear, sometimes it's picture after picture makes sense, and other times it just jumps around. And oftentimes I have to ask, did this really happen to the person, or is it an interpretation, a symbolic interpretation of what their fears or their anxiety or their anger? And then I also have to ask if it's something in this lifetime or another lifetime that they've been incarnated in that has come out to be healed. So I don't know. I just start seeing a whole bunch of movies in my head.
Now, this is going to kind of relate to some other topics that I want to get into, but I'm just curious on this. Do you believe at all that your experience with that paralysis, did that affect your ability to do this? Did that having your kind of nervous system go through that, do you believe that altered at all your ability to pick up on these energies and maybe actually work to your benefit in that area to be able to pick up on that?
That's a super interesting way of thinking about it, because for years I didn't make any connection, and that's because the first, say, 10 years out of, 7 or 8 years out of PT school, I didn't quite make any of that connection. The short answer is yes. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is that there has been many gifts from that experience that has come to me, and it has dramatically affected what my nervous system can take, So, like, I am so sensitive to energies now, and if there's harsh, negative energies, I can feel them right away, and I do believe that part of it is the fact that my nervous system was compromised at that time and became very sensitive. I think maybe I always had an intuitive ability, even prior to that event, which took place when I was 18, 19 years old. It has led me to, it was definitely a huge part of why I got into the health field. So I always look back and go, oh, thank you for that. It just started the path of searching for health, healing, and I do think that I have had, over the last 8 years, some very other health issues come my way, and those absolutely opened me to what you're talking about. Every time I came out on the other side of those, I had a whole new ability to tap in even deeper to the spirit world, that I tend to go for the more higher vibration frequencies of, angels, archangels, spirit guides, the fairy realm, those kind of things. But each and every time I went through a hard physical and emotional illness, then I became able to see more clearly. I became able to tap into somebody and the universal energy much more clearly, and it got deeper and deeper over the last 8 years. So I absolutely think there's a connection.
That's interesting, because we had a guest on, and I honestly never thought about this until she talked about it. But we had a guest on a couple of years ago that had a back injury, and claimed that after that back injury is when she started actually being able to perceive spirits and kind of pick things up. And it actually seemed that some of the spirits seem to be attracted to that energy difference as well, which I found very interesting, which is why I wanted to ask you about that. Darin, when you work with people, how do you perceive or kind of pick up any type of information on their energy or anything that way? Do you kind of perceive or pick it up any specific way?
Yeah. Usually, what's interesting is this is kind of what I've been trained to do with network care, network spinal analysis, with a layer on top of it of just certain, I guess, gifts I've been given. But when I put my hands on people, I kind of get their story. When I'm doing my analysis or when I'm working with somebody, I just have inside of me this feeling of what they're feeling. It's probably like empathy to the most degree, because I can just, I know if they're sad, I know if they're hurting. I don't mean know like an intellectual knowing, I just have a knowing of whatever's going on. Sometimes I can get as specific as individuals or dates and times in different situations like that, and it really has the ability to create a certain manifestation within their body, a symptomatology or an episode or what is perceived as an injury or something, when in fact it really isn't. It's more of the story, the depth of the story. I always joke with I don't call them patients, I call them practice members, with my practice members that I'm not a mind reader, I'm a body reader.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it comes through in many different ways, like Tammy said. Sometimes it'll be images, sometimes it'll be a very, very clear voice in my head, somebody directing me towards something or pay attention to something or act or do in a certain way. Other times it would just be a wave of emotion. Another thing that I do is I've talked with other people who have ways of processing whatever individual they're working with, processing their stuff. I yawn. And I can have like 3, 4, 5 yawns during the course of a single episode. And I know right then that I'm basically gathering their stuff up and then just expelling it through breath.
Oh, that is so cool, Darin. I can totally relate to that. Mine is oftentimes my whole body just takes a deep breath in and out, like one of those uncontrolled. And then I know that, they're having a release too. They might be doing it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's so wild. So the yawning is very interesting as a way of expelling their work that is happening.
And the Reiki practitioner that I have in my office named Laura, she burps, and she always says to me, "Want to trade?"
No. Don't want that.
Yep, nope. That's yours, Laura.
Well, it's interesting. I had, and I think I've talked to Tammy about this before, but the only time, or I shouldn't say the only time, what really got me kind of interested in some of these things way before I started doing any paranormal work, although as I've mentioned in the show before, and Darin can vouch for this since he's known me a very, very long time, I've always had kind of an interest in the kind of creepy side of things and haunted houses and stuff like that. So I've always had an interest there. But when I was going for my MBA, we had it was basically the one kind of what I would have called a light elective class at the time that I took. It really wasn't so much business as it was on stress and decision making, and it ended up being one of the best classes just for application in life that I took. And basically, it was around a lot of. It sounds very similar to the things that both of you were talking about, but it was a lot on breathing and meditation and channeling energy, and the idea that people under stress tend to make bad decisions, and just kind of how to clear your mind and focus on things. And so, related to that, since you both mentioned about the breathing, do you find kind of meditation and breath exercises, does that help you kind of hone your field and hone your ability to pick up on these energies with your the people you work with? And I guess I asked that to both of you, so I apologize. I'll go to Darin first and then Tammy.
I would say yes. There's almost a certain level of clarity that I need to have in order to be effective at what I do. And a lot of times it's not necessarily anything other than just making sure that I get my head out of the way. I work best when I'm in my heart and my fingertips are connected. I always say as soon as my head gets in the way, things just kind of fall apart. So in many instances, it is just a matter of preparing by deleting and by removing anything that happens to be in the way. I always like to say when I walk into my office, when I walk into Vitality, I check my ego at the door.
You know, I agree with all of that. And one of the key things is to be clear and be totally non-judgmental and absolutely get your mind out of the way and tune in to, you know, you can't go in thinking you know what might be happening with this person. Everybody's story is different. Everybody has a unique path, and you've got to be open to wherever their body, their energy, their words, their heart takes you. And meditation is my personal practice of meditation is huge for me, to clear my mind, to learn how to ground in, to learn, you know, to be, learn how to keep a protective shield around. There are a lot of energies out there that you have to be aware of and just not, you know, allow those. You have to be able to clear yourself after working with people who have really traumatic stuff that have happened to them, because their energy comes out. You know, the whole point is to release it, let it go, and let it kind of dissolve away. But you have to develop your own rhythm and ways of helping them release and then not taking it on yourself. You have to be very careful as a practitioner to not take that energy on. It can really drain you and really cause you problems.
All I hear is Dr. Venkman saying he slimed me.
He slimed me? Yeah, you kind of have to be really careful, but you can't live in fear. It's just knowledge and putting your light out there. And when you shine your light and you have a clear light and a clear intention, then that is your strongest divinity in defense. It's not even defense. It's not even the right word. That is your strongest way of staying healthy. And also the energy that we use, I think Darin probably does this too, doesn't come from him and doesn't come from me. You tap into a universal flow, and you are like a conduit. I like to call myself sort of like an earth facilitator, like a facilitator, and I'm just that earth body, that like physical body that's helping to facilitate whatever I can help with. So, you know, that having a personal practice, though, of meditation, grounding, you know, and strengthening your own energy is vital as a practitioner and every person out there.
Yeah, I have found it, again, it was one of the most useful classes I had. It ended up coming right at the time when, we've talked about this on the show before too, but when my wife was pregnant with quadruplets, so to say I was a total stress ball would be a understatement. So it certainly helped me there, and still continues to help me as I work through. I joke around that parenthood's a marathon, not a sprint, and I'm going to be one of those folks that kind of staggers and very ungracefully across the finish line and kind of collapses at the end. But we keep plugging away there.
At least you crossed the finish line. There you go. So.
Yeah, well, that's it. It might be ugly, but
I'm not sure if having five teenagers is called crossing the finish line.
Not yet.
Oh yeah, and it definitely shifts. People tell me this, when they were very, very little, but it definitely shifts from a physical strain to a mental strain. But and it probably is just because of how draining all the things. I don't think I would have the physical energy to do what I did with them 10 years ago. But now it's just getting the mental strength, because that's really what it is now. It's just you get those 5 competing agendas and having to deal with all of that. Another question along with this that I found interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on. The person who taught this stress class was also a practitioner, and I guess he actually would compete in things on Tai Chi, but I guess Tai Chi from the actual kind of combat almost side of it. And what he was doing when he was explaining it was when they would engage or when you would attack an opponent, and he was talking more from, historically on this when it was actually used for defense, not necessarily a meat that these folks would do, that you're not really attacking your opponent physically, but it's your energy impacting their energy and causing the damage that way. And I know you can almost say that kind of kinetically, that would be, the problem. If somebody hits you in the arm and breaks your arm, obviously that's an energy exchange. But he seemed to be speaking it more on a, holistic view. And I just found that very interesting about, these attacks disrupting the energy of your opponent. And I just wanted to get, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or not, but I was curious to get your thoughts. I guess kick it over to Tammy first on this one, but I just found that comment interesting from this professor.
Well, absolutely, that's what it is. Frankly, it's not a physical sport. That's just sort of the manifestation, the result of that. It all comes from how you can generate your chi and generate which is energy, and their whole practice is about generating chi and learning how to direct it. And the physical body just follows the energetic body and does what it needs to do on the physical plane. But you're not an effective offensive or defensive person if you don't have, well, you can be effective to a certain point, let's put it that way, if you're just physically bashing on somebody. But in the sport of it or in the long, if you wanted to have a long run in it, you need to have the energy. And I always think back to my teachers in Japan. Actually, Qigong is a little different. Qigong does not have a martial art aspect like Tai Chi. Tai Chi is all defensive and offensive moves. It's all based on that. But Qigong is just the movement of your energy in a certain way to build up your energy. And my teacher was this little Japanese lady. And I was the young one in the class. I was 30-ish, and there was 20 75-year-olds there and me. And this little Japanese lady could literally throw you across the room if she wanted to. She just had to kind of move her arm in a certain way, kind of twist and turn, and with very gentle ease, throw you across the room. So it was wild, and it's definitely an energetic sport. I think all sports, so everything's energy, everything. Every sport, every illness, every action that we take is preceded by energy. Every manifestation we have is preceded by the energetic manifestation first. So once you figure that out and cultivate that, and it's an ongoing journey in your life, then you can get stronger and stronger energetically. That's where it really lies. That's where all of it lies. So.
Darin, your thoughts?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I wanted to add, there was a very interesting exercise, and I still use the lesson from this, and I was actually the guinea pig in the class when he did this. But the guy brought me up front, and basically I stood there, and he basically said, I'm going to attack you. And so he came at me, and I looked less than graceful, obviously, as this guy's, making noise and flailing all around me. And then he taught me this one breathing technique and repeated it, and it was the weirdest thing, 'cause it was almost like he was going in slow motion. I was able to, even though I had no training in any of this stuff, I could at least put my arms up and block what was coming, because he was seemed to be moving so much slower, and it was just a matter of focusing your attention on your breath more than what was going on around you. And again, it's been a very valuable lesson, because I've used that over and over and over again, and it's a way that when you can remember it, you can really kind of keep your cool in bad situations. But I know I have kind of blabbed on here with the questions. Luana, I believe you have a question for our guest tonight.
I do. I actually, I'm really intrigued by everything they're talking about. I definitely have focused on, the Reiki healing as well. And I just was curious if either one of you guys have the ability, as we talk about energy, do you guys see auras? And if you do you see actual colors with auras?
I'll take this one. Absolutely. And it's kind of one of the parameters that I use as a indicator of outcomes. It's not necessarily just color aura, but it's almost like a windshield in South Florida covered in bugs. I kind of see the clarity or the lack of clarity in people's energetic fields. And I definitely work with these different energetic fields off the body, just like Tammy does. And sometimes it's very bright and vibrant and colorful, and I can see those colors plain as day. Other times it's not so much the color as it is the intensity or the clarity, like I said.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very similar to how I see it too, Darin. And it's sometimes I don't personally see a lot of colors in aura. Every once in a while I will, but I can feel them. I can feel the energy of the person's energy field in their auras, I guess, is how I'm much more of a sensor, I guess, with that. Every once in a while I'll see colors, and it's like, oh, like Darin mentioned, it's a interesting outcome tracker, because they literally, the colors do match the emotion of the person and the health of the person. It's pretty wild, that. And, each chakra system in your body, each energy vortex within your body of the main chakra system have colors associated with them. And so oftentimes I'll bring that into my attention, like, when you're at the base chakra, it basically does the Roy G. Biv color thing, like red is your base chakra right at your pelvic region, and orange is the second chakra ascending up toward your head, so that's at your reproductive area. Yellow is associated with your solar plexus. Green is your heart. Blue is your throat. Indigo is your third eye or your forehead area. And then like a purple is your crown chakra. And so you can employ those colors too at different parts of the body. Did you say you're a Reiki practitioner, or you're familiar with Reiki?
Yeah. Actually, I think Reiki is really really intriguing to me. I actually started. I'm actually only first level certified, but that really opened me up psychically too. After I started doing Reiki, it's like the only way that I can describe it is, before, when I would have spirit around me, I could just see shadow mass. I couldn't see detail. But after going to Reiki, it was just like I was looking at somebody with my eyes. Like I could see that in the mind, like how much detail came through. It was amazing to me how much it changed.
That is fascinating. It's like you got cleared out. You got clearer. Your energy got clearer, and so you were able to see more. So it's all about frequency and what you can tune into, like the frequency of a radio. And as you tune the radio, and as you tune your ability to tune in your frequency, what your body is vibrating at, you'll be able to tune in to higher and higher vibrations and get more and more detail. Yeah, so that's really fascinating.
It is. It's been really amazing to me. Like I think that, like, with the Reiki, I love to even use Reiki on the animals. When my dog had hip dysplasia, I used to try to at least calm her a little bit more and make her comfortable with Reiki. And then I just think it's just an amazing technique,
It is, absolutely. And, I work on pets too. I started to do that more and more, because it's wonderful to be able to tune into their energy and see what's going on, or even if you're not getting any visuals, to just feel if there's blocks in their energy, like with Reiki, and then helping to guide that energy to open the block, so they can, then their natural healing abilities can come out just like humans. The pets are so intuitive, and oftentimes my dog lays there when I'm treating someone and breathes with them and gives big sighs of relief right when they're having a big relief. And it's just so fascinating. Or if someone's going through a very emotional thing, it's very upsetting to my dog. And he comes and tries to comfort them, and it's so fascinating. So pets are great to do energy work on. They're so in tune. So.
They are. It's amazing, like when you have somebody in the family, for example, that's just feeling sad. It's like they connect. They can tune into that, and they sense it. You know, their behavior indicates that they are aware of our emotions. So Absolutely. It is fascinating.
Yeah, Tracy, you had a question?
Yeah, I got a question for both Darin and Tammy. Tammy, you were talking just a little while ago about the colors that you sometimes see. Do they mean the same thing to both of you guys? Like orange means this to both of you, the same thing, or does it depend on what you're doing with this person?
I think that it's kind of person-to-person dependent. Again, you have to kind of clear your mind and not expect it to mean the same thing for everybody. There are certain colors, because of their frequency that they emit, you know, the hertz that they emit, that go with those certain chakra areas of the body, with the certain like vortexes of energy that are in our body, and they so Darin and I'm guessing, would share the same meaning, and he can chime in on this then. But when I'm working with someone, for example, and I'm over their heart, and I'm on their heart, and we're talking about an issue, and sometimes to help them tune into what their body is experiencing and feeling, and I know I'll say, you know, look into your heart, and if they're having trouble seeing, you know, if they're having trouble going in with their inner eye and describing what they see, I'll say to them, do you see any colors in there? And, you know, my brain might think, oh, they're going to say green because the heart, you know, that chakra is green, or they're going to say black because it's totally stopped and the energy is not moving. But I have to get that out of the way, because sometimes they go, yeah, it's a beautiful golden whatever, or it's a terrible brown, it's sludge, or whatever. So it means something that, you know, different to everybody. But there's probably an underlying thread of, like, yellow is sort of happy, you know, and brown and black are sort of heavy and dark and black and low vibration. So it's different. It's not, you can't assume it's the same for everybody. What about you, Darin? What do you think?
I would say that I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said. I would take it to the next level where I see people on an ongoing basis. I'll see people sometimes 3 times a week, and I have to look at them as a different individual on every single visit. So what was pink before, pink this time, or it may be pink, but it means something else. Mm-hmm. So I have to really just kind of look at it and acknowledge it for what it is, and not prejudge it or assume that, you know, I know what it is. And sometimes I'll just say it to somebody. I'll say, there was a lot of gold today. There was a lot of yellow or whatever. And it might be as simple as somebody saying, oh, that was my mother's favorite color, and today was the day she died. Mm-hmm. 20 years ago, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So it sometimes isn't even about them. It's about, just another way that we get to have the information come through us to convey or relay to the individual we're working with.
So with knowing getting to know the colors, is it something that you train on, or is it something you pick up as you do it, like on-the-job training type thing?
This is my 20th year in practice, and I have a whole lot more skill today than I did 20 years ago when I hung my shingle. And they certainly didn't teach me this in chiropractic college.
Right.
Let me add, none of this was taught in physical therapy school. This is definitely beyond. Now I will say maybe there's more mind-body connection out there now than it was 15, 17 years ago. I'm not sure, because I'm not involved, with the academia of physical therapy. But this is something that you sort of get drawn into, you get attracted to, and you build on and learn on. The basic of color therapy would be to start or colors would be to start with looking up chakras, which is CHAKRAS, and there are certain colors associated with your chakras, which are your energy vortexes, and start there. Start to become familiar with those colors typically associated with healthy, open, flowing chakra systems. And from there, you'll start to go into even deeper realms. But if you're interested in colors and energy, that's where I would recommend starting.
Well, thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Good questions.
Awesome. I'm even going to say, I no longer work in this area anymore, but my academic background and early career was all in chemistry. And, just learning on that, a lot of the way that we describe molecules and different things along that way, it's really more of a way we describe it so that we can understand it better. But in reality, again, it's a lot of energy. And as if you've ever seen on some of these science shows and things, most of an atom is empty space. So, one way to look at it is the floor that you're standing on right now is mostly actually empty space, and it's that vibration among the atoms in that floor or the desk you might be sitting at, or your body yourself that gives it its form and its matter. And so from that standpoint as well, I mean, this totally makes sense to me that you have everything vibrating in your body or around you, and it's vibrating at different frequencies, and how that would perceive itself as different energy coming off from that. So again, kind of just my own thoughts here, but I find it very intriguing, particularly from the whole chemistry and physics side of it as well. Luana, did you have another question on auras?
Oh, honestly, maybe you guys, I don't know, maybe you could shed some light on this. I've heard that there's different, like, for example, different kinds of auras that you could see, and I'm not talking about, like, color versus, like, clarity or anything like that, but, they have, like, at the metaphysical fairs, they have the cameras that will pick up your energy and show the different aura colors. And so I was always fascinated by that technology, and I did one a couple years ago, and my mom actually went with me and did hers, and it's just interesting to see the different colors that came out, like in both of our auras. So I was just curious if you guys know anything about that. I've had somebody tell me that there's different kinds of auras, and that picks up something completely different, and I don't know much about auras. So.
I'll start in on that one. What you're talking about is Kirlian photography. And Kirlian photography is pretty interesting as to how it is able to pick up energy from the non-visible spectrum and kind of convert it into a visible spectrum so they can take a picture of it. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some pretty amazing images with that. Other than that, I usually don't really use the term aura very much. What I refer to as kind of as like the bioenergetic fields. There's in my discipline, there's about 5 different bioenergetic fields that I work with. First one being closest to the body, kind of being the physical, the essence of physics, physical body, going all the way out to source or soul or oneness. And there's all these different bioenergetic layers in between them. Mental, physical, emotional, all kinds of different things.
Okay.
Tammy?
Yeah, I'm thinking about what you're saying and agreeing. I don't typically work in the term, the aura realm, because I think it's just like Darin said, there's these different kind of bodies that we have, and maybe other people call them auras, and I tend to kind of go for that bioenergetic bodies. We have our mental body, our physical body, our spiritual body, our emotional body, our etherical body. What else? There's a few others. I want to say there's at least 8 out there, maybe probably more than that, but what is currently known is probably 8 or 9. Each one can give off different colors because they can be emitting different frequencies, and that picture they took of you will be ever changing. that will be ever-changing, instantly ever-changing. So, they could take a picture and a second later, all the colors could be slightly different and a second later, so it's really cool to see, but to know that you're never, ever static and that your energy is constantly changing, and to not separate that from who you really are.
Right.
So yeah. So I guess I don't necessarily work in terms of aura either, so it's kind of difficult to answer, but to know that we have all these different layers that kind of come together to be who we are, from the concrete to physical to the very abstract soul, and each one of those can give off different colors and different frequencies and emit different things. And so I think it's fascinating. I just know that it changes all the time. So.
I have one practice member who has the I'll use the word condition. I like the word gift of synesthesia. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is.
I just learned about that the other day. That's so fascinating. You may want to share what it is, but that is fascinating.
She's her thing is she tastes colors, and she has visual representations of numbers other than just like the Julian number kind of system, where she can she one day just told me what blue tastes like and went through this whole thing, and it's very interesting to talk with somebody who has a total different grasp of reality than I do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she has a lot of overlapping nerve receptors or something. I just watched this little TED Talk on that the other day. So if you look up TED Talks and something on that just was out the other day, and I learned about it. So I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Matt, unless there's other questions to get to, I wanted to go back to kind of in the very beginning where you talked about when somebody is sick or ill or have a bad pain, and then it may open up, or they feel it may result in their ability to connect with the spirit world. Would it be okay if we do that, or can we get back to that at some point? Okay.
No, absolutely. Let's go now.
So the interesting thing about when you're in pain, when you have a physical pain or an illness that comes up, a couple things, each person would have to be looked at on an individual basis to see what exactly is going on with that person. However, some generalities around that are worth pointing out, I think, is that your body gives you messages. So, and it'll get louder, the message will get louder and louder and louder until we finally address it. And so when we're in pain or we have an illness, either on a conscious level or even on an unconscious level, we ask for a lot of things of the universe. We put out very, very strong desires to get better, to feel healthy again, to be more vibrant, to not have pain, to, be pain-free. And we could be saying these things, or our energy, our unconscious mind is just filling it out into the universe, putting all that energy out into the universe, all those wishes and desires and hopes. And they're big. The bigger the pain, the bigger the asking to get better. And so two things. The body is talking to you. The body is very, very wise. It needs to be addressed. There's almost always, I would say always, a reason why there's a pain in your body. And if you would talk to it and ask it, what are you trying to tell me? You'll hear it, unless you would choose to ignore that. So our brain is very tricky. So usually the very first gut instinct, gut thought that comes to your brain is what's really going on with that pain and needs to be looked at or acknowledged and addressed. And it's all energy-based. I mean, it's all, the underlying current of all this is energy. And so I would share that tip with anybody listening, like if you have an illness or have a pain or have a problem, sit quietly and talk to it. Ask it why it's there and what it wants, and try not to let your mind override the answer. So that's one thing. But the second thing is, so you put all this conscious and unconscious asking out into the universe to be better. And when you finally find whatever helps you feel better, whatever modality that is, whether it's traditional Western medicine, whether it's complementary alternative medicine, whether it was your own, your own way of healing, whatever you sought out, usually multiple paths got you feeling better again, or helped you feel better. Now all of a sudden you can align with that energy that you put out there, all these wishes and all these desires to feel better, and you're usually so much stronger, because once you finally align with feeling better, it's a powerful alignment. It's a powerful energetic alignment. And I think that's what opens up the door for a lot of people to connect more deeply with spirit and with energy. And for some people, that is to connect in with the what I call higher vibration frequencies, or the more, the more of the angelic realm. And for some, it may open the door to connecting in with any kind of spirit, maybe entities that have the same pain, emotional pain, because maybe there's some empathetic connection maybe, or maybe spirits that have had the same type of physical traumas in their life. Somehow there might be some kind of a law of attraction or some kind of empathetic ability to connect in with those entities. So, I know a lot of your talk is about connecting in with various kinds of ghosts or spirits or whatever, and there's a lot of reasons why people can do that. But I think after an illness, particularly, people become heightened because they've asked for it, even if they don't realize they've asked for it, and they've honed their skills. And sometimes it takes them by surprise, like they don't get it. But that's mostly why people, whoever can connect into various entities, it's not usually by mistake. Let's put it that way. So I just wanted to share all that thought.
No, that's very interesting. We have, well, I think, Luana, I know you have had your experiences. I've talked before on the show here about all the odd experiences I have had, and I'll say, when we do this show, particularly from anyone that's investigating in the paranormal field, I would say, at least 90% of them, what originally sparked their interest was some type of experience and wanting to delve into that a little more. I've talked about before on here a number of times about how I have the and it freaked me out at first, and it still could be some kind of waking dream thing, although I highly doubt it based on the patterns I've seen. But I have the interesting experience of once or twice a year on average, I will wake up in the middle of the night and see somebody in the room, and I have to say it's a bit freaky, but kind of get a little bit more used to it. And one of the things that really got me. I'm sorry?
Well, what happens when that person's in the room? Do you ever or that entity is in the room? Do you ever make a connection with it, like ask it why it's there?
They don't last long, so it's not like a
okay, split second kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's not like I'm never dreaming about them. It's an odd thing. One of the ones that really started I used to just always chalk it up to just dreams, but the one thing that really got me thinking that there could be more to it is a place I love to go to. I've spent hours and hours there. We talk about it on here a lot, is Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia. And the first time that I went there, I ended up recording a little girl's voice. One time we heard that there's a kind of a famous spirit there, Lily, and I'd seen on a show before I went there the first time that somebody had an experience with Lily with Cracker Jack. So I brought a box of Cracker Jack. I was kind of shaking the Cracker Jack, kept it in my pocket, and I ended up recording a little girl's voice a couple times. And one time when I'm walking down the hallway, just recorded this. Actually, it's one of the cuter EVPs I have. It's just this little girl giggling. And the week we came back from that place, this is the first time I was there, I woke up 3 different times that week, and there was a little girl in the room. It was the same little girl 3 different nights. And so that's what I started thinking of, the odds of that being, and I hadn't even gone through the audio at this point yet to know I recorded a little girl's voice. And so I found that very interesting. We've talked before, I know George, who's in the chat room, has talked before that, we've used kind of the analogy of it's almost, on some of these cases, it's almost like spirit Facebook, that, once you have some type of interaction, then you're kind of known, and it's not that they necessarily hang around with you the whole time, but on occasion they might pop in and, see what you're doing. I apologize. I know Luana, who also has a question here, and some of the people that are on the show all the time have heard this story before, but the weirdest one I ever had, and I probably would have given my mother-in-law a heart attack, was the quads were just really close to getting born. Loretta was in the hospital. She was in the hospital for about, I want to say, 3 weeks before they were born, 4 weeks. And my mother-in-law was staying with us. I was sleeping upstairs. What woke me up, I was facing the wall, but what woke me up was I wasn't having a nightmare or anything. I heard a voice say, "Wake up, they're coming." So I wake up, and I'm kind of facing the wall, and I turn around, and in the doorway of my bedroom is a man in a uniform. If you can picture, just like in the kind of the horror movies, head like cocked to the side with this really weird look on his face. And behind him, if you think of those old like sepia tone photos, basically just formless bodies in that kind of color. No features, just if you just picture like this kind of like naked formless bodies, all kind of filing into the room. Wasn't scared until I actually turned around and saw that. My lungs filled up with air, and I was getting ready to scream like I had never screamed in my life. I have no idea how bad that would have sounded, but and then it disappeared. Have no idea. I've heard. I've always thought of like something negative about it. We had a guest recently when I've shared that story that thought that it could have been in relation to the babies coming. That my wife in the hospital, and just tied to the stress to that. I really actually hadn't made that connection before. I don't know, but that's been the weirdest one. One more real quick. I was traveling.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, for your stuff, you'd have to tune into that, like your energies particularly, where we could ask, at some other time, but I'm just saying, like, we don't know if there was any kind of past life connection that was coming up for you because of the energy, if it was maybe symbolic of the quads coming and, the stuff going on with that. But you could figure out what it is. You just have to tune into your own energy and you just have to tune in and, ask. And so,
there's a
when
there's a lot of commentary on when the soul enters the body. And it may well have been "they're coming" means here they come. The souls are now entering the bodies of these little beings that are getting ready to be brought into the world.
Yeah, that's a neat thought, too. So it really is perspective, like where you want to go with this. Everything is perspective. If you take it like, from a negative, fearful perspective, or if you take it from like the cool thought of the souls are coming to enter the body, if you take it like there are so many possibilities here that it just gets me all excited, what it could be. But each person has a different story. So you seeing a certain kind of entity, and even your interactions with the girl, and then if someone else has had interactions with that girl, it could be different, and it could be different reasons why. It's very fascinating, but you have to be on their frequency level somehow, or being able to shift and tune into their frequency of whatever frequency they're vibrating at in order to connect with them. I think they don't, and that's the interesting connection with energies and ghost entities or spirit entities or ETs or anything like that. You've got to be able to either shift in and out of accessing that frequency, or if they're coming to you unwanted, most likely it's because you are vibrating it pretty strongly at a certain frequency level that they're resonating with. The other reason they might be coming to you, they meaning like, say, something kind of scary or something that is a lower vibration frequency or some kind of, nuisance kind of ghost or something. They come up, sometimes the reason they start making their presence known in people's lives is because you're quite a bright light, and they get attracted to that, and they
come and kind of glom onto you, you know, and so they're coming to glom onto your energy because you're quite a grounded, strong, bright light that they're coming for. So there's multiple reasons why people can connect into the various entities, but those are a few of the reasons that come to my mind.
Awesome. And I will add real quick, I know Luana had a follow-up, and we have a question in the chat as well. That was the only one that I would consider kind of a, you know, creepy or actually kind of scared me. Usually, believe it or not, as odd as it might sound, you know, kind of waking up and seeing somebody there, you know, the far majority of the time, it doesn't seem, it's not really scary. It's not really threatening. I joke around and say when I travel on business, I never, this might sound kind of odd, but I always have a light on in the hotel room because I don't want to have the confusion of if I wake up in the middle of the night trying to figure out if there's really somebody that doesn't belong there in my room versus seeing something. And I did have a weird experience once in Vancouver where the whole entire night, basically it was like a party going on in the house or in the room. There were people all over the place, and then there'd be, if you can picture this, people actually in the bed and
real people?
Like
physical people?
I would be, I'd be sleeping, and there'd just be people around. It'd be like, and like they were totally ignoring me, and then I'd be asleep, and there'd be like this, you know, voice going, "There is somebody sitting in on the bed next to you. Wake up," kind of deal. And it was a very bizarre experience. Only place, very very old hotel, so I'm sure probably some history there, but very very odd things. But I know I have gone kind of long on here. Going to kick over to Luana, who I know had a question as well or a comment as well about this.
You know, it's not really a question as an observation. As you guys were talking about, you know, as spirit comes to you, do you ask it? I think that was one of the questions. Do you ask it what it wants or what it's doing there? And that's something I'm trying to do now because up until now, I'm an empath, so it's taken me years to understand that, like, when I have spirit come to me, I feel their emotion. It's not my emotion, and I have to separate that. So sometimes it's really peaceful. Sometimes it's not so peaceful, and it's scary. And so that's where once I went through the Reiki and I was able to see detail, I remember I have a medium in my team, and she always told me, like, just try to communicate through your mind, you know, ask questions, try to find out what they want, you know, that kind of thing, when they just appear next to your bed in the middle of the night. And I think that's just because, again, I'm at rest, I'm wide open, I'm not blocking everything. Makes sense to me why that would be the most frequent time sometimes for them to visit me. But I know that, like, when I saw that little boy, that was the first time that, and that was right after I did the Reiki, and he was the one that I could see in complete and total detail, and it really startled me. But I remembered in my mind thinking to him and trying to communicate with him and just say, you know, I don't mind you being here. I'm just startled right now. I'm kind of scared because it caught me off guard, and I just picked up from him that he was very excited that he could get my attention. And then just like that, he was gone.
Yeah. When you sound like you have, Luana? Is it Luana?
Yes. Yes.
Luana, you sound like you have really great intuitive abilities and that you're almost like an empath where you can feel what these spirit entities and maybe other physical bodies are feeling. You have a great gift.
Yes.
You really do. You do have a great gift. So as you discover more of it and hone it, you know, I just offer that you make sure your intentions are set for the day and that you are, you know, asking for your best and highest good to come forth through the day. And, you know, we can take on other people's energy. And I think, Matt, we were going to talk about this at some point, but the idea that we could take on a lot of energy that isn't for our good for lots of different reasons. And so it can make us sick. And because it can close down our chakra systems, it can affect different parts of our body, and we don't quite know what's going on most of the time. And so it's kind of built and built and built. And, you know, in our energy body, we can have a lot of unwanted things floating in there, like I said, for a host of different reasons why. Well, it's, you have to go with each person as to why. But so cleaning out, until you're getting really, well, not you personally, but until a person is really strong and solid in their own energy and their own light and where and how they're connecting into, you'll just want to do like daily, end of day visualizing, flushing out, or however it looks to you, just cleaning your energy field, going to bed with it nice and clean and not blocked. There's something called vacuuming. Yeah. You can go in, you can vacuum out any of the dark energy in your energy fields and in your physical body. You ask, whatever's not yours to be released. I often with my clients, so there's really powerful things you can do. And often, with my clients, I often ask, usually silently, but is it theirs? And a lot of the times, they've taken on crap that is just not theirs because they're empathetic, they're sensitive, they care, they don't want to hurt somebody, they want to try to help someone not feel the pain, or they don't even know they've taken it on, whatever. And so oftentimes we can take on a lot of energy that's not ours, and it's just not healthy or for our best and highest good. So it's always an important thing to ask.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. It did take me many years to understand, like, even when I investigate, there's times that I would just, all of a sudden, I'd be, like, overwhelmed with despair, for example, and I just would start crying uncontrollably. It's like I'd have to leave that area physically to get away from that. And then as I've gotten more into it, and understanding what I'm taking on, because there's times I could walk through the grocery store and I will have physical, like my hips will hurt, or just things that I'm like, what? I didn't pull my hip out. Why is it hurting like that? And it is true. Like I've really had to focus on blocking so that I don't take that on. And for me, it's like being grounded, and I do like meditate a lot and get in touch. Like for me, it's like nature, like getting back into like just appreciating. That's one of the ways that I've been able to channel my energy and not take on everything, because I do feel it like when I go to work, if somebody's really negative, it really, if I'm not careful, I can feel that, and it's not a good feeling. So I definitely get what you're saying, because you don't want to take all that on.
Right. And in your field of, I don't know if it's your field or your hobby or whatever, but when you're investigating, like Matt goes and does these investigations, and he seems to be able to tune his frequency to tune into these things, and it's just important to not let them come into your energy field, just setting the intention, I call it my shield of love, kind of around, and just knowing that as you shine your light, that is your greatest protection, is to have an open heart and to, be connected in with divine flow.
That's exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly what I say to myself, too.
Connect into the divine flow. So then you can, just it's like tune your radio to if there's a certain entity in a building or a hospital or something that you're trying to find. Prior to going in, you can meditate on that and ask to be shown. Ask to be shown if there's one that's known to history and you want to see, or ask if that entity can come forth and tell you more information. So I think a lot of life, all of life, is about setting your intention and what you like, and then be open to the infinite possibilities of how it's going to be answered. And then the kind of work that you and Matt and the others on the show do is very fascinating. And I think, has the ability to get so much information from these entities that you're encountering.
No, definitely. And I think it's, like I don't experience actually, a lot of people will talk about a lot of the negative forces. I don't experience a lot of those, but I also set my intention that I'd like to be guided in a positive way and to help whatever way I can, but I don't really find a lot of negative things around me. And I think it's because I do visualize like light. I see it when I go into places, and I try to talk to my guides and ask for their assistance as well, just for that reason.
Well, I want to add there, too, because I don't know, Lon, if you obviously haven't run into this then. I'd say, I don't either. But what's always had me kind of on edge, and I'm probably out of everyone that I've interacted with, at least, on the show, on our show, probably the most paranoid of the negative stuff, or at least the most mindful of it, is anyone that's investigated with me. George is in the chat room. He's investigated with me before. I'm very respectful. I don't provoke. I don't try to tick things off. I try to connect and have a conversation. I almost on every investigation get something saying negative things to me, to the point where it's very interesting. In some locations, particularly the one that I went with George, I get my full name now followed by, die or hate you, F you, things like that. So it's interesting. So it's always had me on the, and have some, different ideas as to what could be going on there. But it's always struck me as interesting that, I'm a pretty mellow guy. I don't, go around trying to tick people off, living or dead or, spirit world. But there seems to be at least, I think, get a decent amount of animosity that seems to be directed towards me. And so it's very interesting.
That just tells me you're good. You're good at what you do.
Yeah, it is weird. It is definitely weird. And then the other thing is, just really quick, and we've talked about this on here before too. I've recorded a little girl's voice on so many investigations now that I'm kind of operating under the theory that the little girl's more tagging along with me more than in the locations, because I'd say it is close to 100% of places I go into. I'll end up getting recordings of a little girl. Did want to get along to what you mentioned, Tammy, about the health piece, and I really wanted to get your thoughts on this because I found this very, very interesting. We had a guest on a while ago that was describing a haunting. It was an apartment. Some people did some odd things there, but one of the trends of the residents in these apartments were they would all get basically sick and die, and it was all different things. It wasn't necessarily an environmental thing. Somebody moves in and 6 months later drops dead of a heart attack. Somebody else moves in within a couple months gets cancer. Somebody else moves in and something else happens this way. I have seen locations with similar trends with other odd things like mental illness, like totally unrelated people in the same location and somebody in the family gets schizophrenia. So it was, it just really kind of strikes me, makes me wonder about, if we have these entities and locations, and I think most of us on here agree that it's, whatever these entities are, they are manifest or they're some form of energy. Can they interact with your physical energy in a way that is harmful or that could create physical problems within your own body? And I guess whichever one of you wants to kind of go first on that one, feel free.
I'll jump in on that one.
Yep.
What I've basically seen in my practice, and this is strictly non-scientific, strictly observational and anecdotal, but I would say close to 80% at the very bottom end of people's physical stuff is actually physical in origin, which means there's a non-physical manifestation that's kind of the first domino that gets things going. And in our culture, we really don't pay attention to anything until there's a symptom associated with it. And oftentimes it's like was stated earlier about it's not even your stuff. Luana had mentioned that. A lot of times it isn't your stuff. You're either carrying around other people's burdens or responsibilities or problems or anger or whatever it is, and you may or may not even be aware that you're doing that. Now, when you're looking at it from an entity perspective, somebody actually maliciously attaching themselves to you, I've seen that too. I've had people in my practice where I really had to just sit down with them and say, look, this isn't even your stuff. What's going on doesn't even belong to you, and there's somebody who's having their way with you. And oftentimes I don't try to remediate that situation, but I'll point them in the direction of their priest or their rabbi or their minister or whatever the case is, if they have such an animal. Or I'll move them in the direction of, anything that they can do about setting that intention like Tammy was talking about. really getting yourself grounded in love and light and being aware and present that you are safe and you are protected, and these other energies or entities or whatever they are no longer welcome. And when Tammy was talking about setting the intention, I always say be very specific with your instructions to the universe. And
good.
I'll say that to every one of them, that they have the opportunity to say, okay, here's where it stops, and we move forward from here.
Love that, Darin.
Okay.
Love that. I'm writing that down. Okay. I think absolutely that spirit entities or negative energy can affect someone's health, and these situations, there's some bad mojo going on in those homes or something. If resident after resident healing over for different reasons. It's not necessarily just one or spirit entity like a ghost that's doing this. The energy in the walls of this or the ground. Maybe 100 years ago that place was a mass execution site or something bizarre like that, and the energy of that is very destructive to our energetic field, and it's very disruptive to our nervous system and in whatever other systems in our body. I mean, it's all energetic based, and if we walk into a scenario and place ourselves into lower vibration frequencies or negative energies, whether it's coming from a ghost or a spirit entity or whatever the term is, or whether it's coming from the energy of the ground and that have not really been cleared from that, it disrupts us. It disrupts it. It puts cracks in our energy field. It can shift and bend and torque our energy field, and with that happening, our energy cannot flow healthily and optimally through our body, and then the physical manifestation starts. Then the heart doesn't get the energy it needs, and various illnesses start arising. Or then the kidneys don't get what they need and you can't process out. So it's different for everybody, but I would say that if there is a place that resident after resident is coming into, it's not necessarily just a non-physical person or entity. It could be that something happened in that area and it needs cleaning. It needs to be cleared out, and you can call in those various guides and archangels and whoever else you use to clear out negative energy, because they can be very, very destructive, to our energetic field, and cause blocks and cause black and dark and all kinds of things to happen. So I've seen it, I've experienced it personally, and I have seen it with clients. So I don't doubt that it exists.
I'd like to expand on that in the opposite direction. What I've seen in my practice more than anything is very helpful or very guiding or even very protective energies and entities come around these people who are their loved ones and give me guidance and insight into what I should be paying attention to. I had one experience just a couple months ago where as soon as I put my hands on this woman in my practice, inside my head I heard a woman's voice say, "Use a heavy hand." And I had no idea what that meant. I went about my work, did the term I use is entrainment, did the entrainment for that day, and used a little bit more firm force with my hands than I normally would, just thinking that, hey, if this voice is going to tell me this, I better follow instructions. When I was done, I had a little chat with her, and she was absolutely convinced that was her mother talking, and said, "Mother was telling you to do this because that's how she would have treated me with what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through emotionally right now." So sometimes it's as clear as me hearing a voice in my head saying, "Pay attention to this."
Yes, I have experienced the same thing treating clients. You just have, I guess, voices in the head. All of a sudden you know a question to ask them, or I often see positions their body parts need to be in order to release the energy.
I wish I had a nickel for every time one of my practice members asked me, "How did you know?"
Yeah.
I'd have my son's college tuition paid for already.
Yeah,
and I always say I don't know. I don't really have a knowing. I just have this small voice inside of me that says, pay attention.
That is so cool. And, you know, we have tons and tons of guides around us. Beautiful, loving, helpful, you know, guides that come from other dimensions that we live in, that come from their archangels, their spirits that are loving and helpful, their deceased people that have transitioned into the non-physical world. They're all there, and they're all accessible. There's more of those than there are the negative entities. And oftentimes the negative entities aren't as negative as you think if we would investigate it in a kind of with a different perspective of what they're wanting and where they're coming at. But in general, you know, when I treat, there's so many guides around me, and I've tapped into tons of ascended masters that were out there. I mean, oftentimes Jesus comes. I can't explain it how and why, but I think, and I am not a religious person in that way, but Jesus was a person who could tap into source energy, the higher being, and create amazing healings because of the space he held, the therapeutic space he held. And I often have him come through. And there's others that come. They're there, and so it's your intention. It's where you're vibrating at, and it's absolutely amazing what we can tap into. The whole, you know, the universal structure of support that's out there.
Interesting. I have another question. This just kind of came up, and I know I'm not going to. It's always a sign of a good show, but I'm not going to get to everything here yet. But I did want to get. We've talked about this in the past, and I want to get your thoughts on this about the possibility that we've already said that, you know, people or spirits surround us, and we talked about this before about people drinking and lower inhibitions, and then you see somebody act in a way that they normally do not act. And one kind of theory that some people had kicked out there is, could some of these spirits more or less live vicariously? Could you be more open to influence if you're in kind of an intoxicated state? And let's say, you know, I never ever smoke, and for some reason all of a sudden I got the urge that I'm going to have a cigarette, and I end up smoking at the bar. Could a spirit somehow derive some type of, I don't know how to describe it, benefit or pleasure or something, or more or less live vicariously through the actions of somebody physically? Does that make sense?
Well, my short answer to that is only if you allow it.
Amen.
Yeah.
I second that.
Yeah.
If you're open to influence, you don't need necessarily a tool to reduce your inhibitions. If you're open to influence, whether you're under the influence of alcohol or mind-altering drugs or whatever the case is, it kind of comes down to the fact that you're probably a little bit more easily influenced, but nonetheless, if you're open, you're open.
Okay.
That is true, and you have to understand and take personal responsibility. And no spirit, this is a strong statement, but I believe it. No spirit can enter you, positive or negative, without having some access given via you. So you know, they're all around us, whatever you want to say they are. I mean, there's all many dimensions out there in the world that we can't see, and they're not the same as our physical bodies. But you're not a victim, and you have to make sure you don't take that victim attitude when it comes to that. And if you're getting attacked in a negative way by non-physical entities, you've got to look at your belief system and your attitude and see if you feel like you're a victim or not. And they don't come unless you allow it somehow. And sometimes that's not easy to admit to ourselves. And so those are saying, no, that's not me. It probably is you. And the more we fight that. So personal responsibility for your own energy and what you're vibrating at and what you're allowing in is huge. Now, that being said, we've just spent quite a long time talking about how negative energies can affect our health. That's a little bit different scenario. You know, if you've got a lot of negative energies around you, you can get disrupted, but you still have to take responsibility for healing that disruption. So
I guess outside of that, I was kind of thinking from a little bit of a different angle. Outside of the entering a person or that side of it, do you think spirits can derive any type of interaction or pleasure from a physical? Like, if I was a chain smoker, would I associate to somebody that smokes, and would I be able to derive anything energetically from that person smoking?
I don't know. That's assuming that spirits can feel emotion like we do as human beings. It's not necessarily an answerable question, but I'm guessing that spirits can embody a body and can kind of live vicariously through that physical body. It's been recorded of that happening. So I'm guessing it can. But, you know, those who have transitioned into the non-physical world don't feel it the way we feel it and the way we feel it in our human body. And it's only our limited minds not being able to grasp that kind of assumes they're just like us. And I'm talking about angels and ghosts out there, whatever. They don't, it's not the same. It's just not the same. So can they live in our bodies and kind of, I don't know, that might be more Hollywood. I'm not sure. What do you think, Darin?
My short answer is I don't know.
Me neither.
And this wasn't to put you guys, you know, what we do a lot on these shows, and it is a little different from the earlier questions that I asked too, is a lot of times we just kind of kick some of these unanswerable things out there to see what different people's thoughts are on it. And, you know, I'm just kind of intrigued with the idea of, we talk about everything else going on energetically. How does, this kind of leads into something else I was going to talk about here, the things we do physically translate into energy. And so I guess what I was kind of getting at with that is, and Darin, I'm curious to get both your thoughts on this, but I know I've seen you post and comment on these types of things in the past. Yeah, I'm going to go on the assumption that the things we put into our body food-wise influences also that vibration in the energy field coming out. I would also assume basically, you know, different types of substances we would take would do the same thing. You know, alcohol could probably do the same thing. Smoking could do the same thing. And so I guess where I was kind of theorizing on this was whatever that energetic interaction could be, if somebody lived in that state and consumed whatever that was to a large degree, that became a part of their energy field, would there be some type of attraction to that same kind of energy resonance? And I hope I'm not losing people on this because I feel like I'm kind of tripping over myself here. That would manifest itself. So again, I'm kind of going with the smoking analogy. If I was a chain smoker in life, would that have influenced my energy to the point that I would be attracted to however that manifests with somebody in the physical realm that's still smoking? Does that make sense?
If I were a chain smoker in spirit, I would probably be more attracted to a chain smoker in flesh, to hang out with them, than I would be to somebody who's never smoked a day in their life and doesn't have really any intentions of doing so. I think I'm kind of hearing are ghosts capable of getting a contact high?
Or even if it's not physically, is there something that pulls out energetically that would attract them? I guess you know. Yeah, it is kind of like the contact high piece of it, but I'm not saying that, you know, ghosts can smoke, if that makes sense.
Right. No. I've seen Molly borrow Oda Brown's body so she could kiss Sam, but I don't know if there's any other evidence of that.
Gotcha. I'm curious too, Darin. This one, have you ever had any personal, you know, outside of what you go through with the energy and the healing things, any experiences that you would consider paranormal?
Absolutely. I have two very benevolent spirits that live in my building, and I even know their histories and who they are. And I've had several interactions with them, and other people in my building have had several interactions with them. And if you ever want to come and investigate, I can introduce you to them on a first-name basis. But the most interesting one I can recall is when my former practice partner and I bought Vitality. We were doing a very serious. Vitality was a building that was built in 1875 by the first mayor of Emmaus, Pennsylvania, and it basically was in the family of another family for over 100 years. And we did some renovations on it. It was a property of the Emmaus Moravian Church for many decades, and then it became private, and then I bought it, and so on and so forth. But the story is we were upstairs looking at a recently refinished floor in a room that was going to be an office but also had a kitchen in it. And the full-size stove was still there, and the guy who did the floor had needed a piece of wood to do some matching of, you're talking, 19th century yellow pine. So I gave him a piece that was about 18 inches long, and it was triangular shaped. At one end it was about 3 inches, and the other end came down to a point. So she and I were in there in our bare feet walking around and just looking at the floor, checking it out, and that piece of wood was between the 4 burners on the stove. So nowhere near, the edge, nowhere near anything kind of precarious. And as we were leaving, the affectionate name of the male spirit, we gave him the name Harold. And as we were leaving the room and pulling the door behind us, we said, "We hope you're happy, Harold." Then we heard this kind of bang-clang sound, and we opened the door again, and that piece of wood is all the way across the room, which is a good 15-foot room, on the floor, and the clang we had heard is that it had hit the baseboard hot water pipe, heater, and was just laying on the newly refinished wood. And we basically just said, "You're welcome," and just kept on walking. We've had 4 different people describe his looks down to even his clothing and what he wore or what he wears. Different areas of the office, different times, years apart, and one of whom was my former wife, Jamie, her father, who is, a Navy man. He's nowhere near any kind of paranormal anything. He's as black and white nuts and bolts as you can get. Well, we conveyed this story, and he said, that explains something I saw one day. And we said, "Oh, what's that?" And he said he was coming down the steps to the foyer and about to turn into what is my reception area. And he said, "I saw, as plain as day, kind of scruffy salt and pepper hair with a blue and black plaid flannel shirt on, goes right through the wall at the end of the hallway into what's my office." And we've had 3 other people with very, very strong gifts describe a man with salt and pepper hair wearing a black and blue plaid flannel shirt. Some of it described overalls over top of it. So here's this guy who, like I said, has absolutely no, agenda, saying this is what he saw.
Oh, wow.
And the other one is Mamie Eisenhard, not Eisenhower. Mamie Eisenhard was the owner of the building for decades. She was born and died in that house. Her parents owned it before her. She never married, never had children. She literally lived her entire life in that house. And one day, my neighbor diagonal from Vitality said, "Hey, do you have a tenant?" And I said, "No, why?" And he said, "One night, you left the 3rd floor light on, and I saw a lady standing in that window." And I said, "What'd she look like?" He said, "She kind of looked like she had like a costume on. She almost looked like she had on like old world garments kind of thing." I said, "That's interesting." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "You probably just described Mamie Eisenhard, who was a traditional Moravian lady, always had an apron on, always had a little bonnet on, just kind of looked the part, even up to when she died in 1961. By the way, I visited her grave in the Moravian cemetery and brought her flowers. But he was in that window, and I said to Mike, and again, this is an auto mechanic. This is a guy who owns a shop across the street from me and is totally not geared towards this kind of entertainment, if you will. He said, "I know what I saw, and that's what I saw." And I said, "Well, Mike, it's interesting because that 3rd floor window is where the staircase goes from the 2nd floor up to the 3rd floor. There's no floor there." And he said to me, and I quote, Dude, make sure that fucking light's off.
Love it. So I have a question about that. That leads me to a question to all of those listening. Do you think that spirit entities, can kind of juice it up when they want to be seen, and kind of be seen when they want to be seen, and then recede when they don't want to be seen?
I'll weigh in first on this. I would say for the most part, yes. It's a combination though. I think there's kind of three kind of factors in it. But again, this is all just theory. One, I think it is their intent. Two, I think it is their strength. I think there's varying strengths in the energy of the different entities, and that strength probably kind of waxes and wanes depending on situations or maybe even time of year type piece. And then finally, I think there is a aspect of it of the person actually seeing it. I think, I honestly think this whole idea of intuitive and sensitiveness is just really a very long spectrum of people's abilities, and so I think there has to be
awareness
some degree
maybe?
of, even if you're not consciously aware of it, I think there has to be some degree of openness in the person to be able to perceive it. And so, out of that mechanic that saw her in the third floor window, if there were 7 people working there, maybe only 3 would have been able to see her out of the 7. That's just my theory. Luana, what do you think? Luana, you there?
Yeah, yep, sorry, I was on mute. I
Sorry.
agree with that. I think that, abilities does play into a lot of that, or just, why a lot of people ask why can some see and some can't. I agree with that.
Tracy, any thoughts?
I was just curious.
Oh, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Matt. You hit the nail right on the head.
All right. And Darin, I'll just quick throw in there. As you know, I come up there. I still have family up that way, so I come up on occasion. And so if you're ever interested, I would be more than willing to go up there with you and check it out and see if we could learn any more about the folks in that building. Tammy, I am assuming, based just on what you have said here, that you absolutely have had interactions, since you said you basically see and interact with entities through what you do. I was just curious, any particular experience kind of outside of your practice of note that would fall into kind of the paranormal realm?
Well, yes, many, but I don't have any that freaked me out or were, very scary, paranormal kind of things. I mean, I go into a meditation and oftentimes the whole world opens up to me. And I can access various angels that are out there. I can access various ascended masters in the fairy realm, and I have someone who's working with me named John. It seems so basic. I'm like, okay, so all the crazy names out there, and maybe it's just my mind that can only grasp that you're John, and so there is a non-physical entity that has made his way to me that calls himself John, and it seems kind of weird, but he's actually, or I say he because of the name, but he comes from another dimension, and he has the ability to shapeshift or change his form, so he can be anything you want him to be, or not that I want him to be anything. He can mold into any person or shape or form that you want him to be. So this is kind of new for me, and it's come up, and he's helping me a lot. He's helping me with a lot of the healing that I do. So I tap into a lot of different entities that are all benevolent and welcome to come. Many different guides. Trying to think. It's an odd thing because I kind of live like they're always around, and but I don't really, like, as I'm sitting in this room I'm in, not like I see anything. Although I will say that the story with my house, real quick, we just moved, and the story with my finding this new house was one of those synchronous kind of events where it all fell together to potentially be a house that we could bid on. And in the middle of the bidding process, we had put a price in on the home, and I came back to the home we lived in San Diego, and I was sitting there thinking about it, and the next thing I know, I had a vision of sorts where there were all these entities with their hands out in the backyard of this new home. And they said, we're holding it for you. We're waiting. We've just been waiting for it all to line up, and we're holding it for you. And there were hundreds of them waiting and holding this place with open arms. And, this is a crazy housing market up in Northern California. And it was an amazing feeling. And from that point on, I just felt comfortable and knowing that this was meant to be. So it all worked out, and here we are. And when we came in, we've had quite a loving spirit entity in the home. So I've had various spirit entities, healthy, happy spirit entities visit me and help me along the way. And when I've been sick or I've reached out, they come and they help. So I don't have any kind of weird ones to tell you about, but.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
If I could circle around back to Mamie, there was one story I didn't get a chance to say, and it just popped into my head that I need to share.
Sure.
I was in a relationship that wasn't exactly the healthiest relationship, and a very dear friend of mine who has a very strong ability said that she started having these dreams, and this lady would come to her in these dreams and tell her things to tell me because I clearly wasn't listening. And this friend of mine was saying that, Mamie loves you and wants you to be successful and wants you to be happy in your life. And if you don't get out of this relationship, this person's going to take down you and your business. And
wow.
I was like, okay, that's very nice. Thank you very much. I'll take it under advisement. Then she started saying that Mamie is slapping me and punching me at night. And I don't mean this figuratively. I mean it literally. Mamie is taking me and shaking me and telling me that I have to tell you. I got a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, Mamie needs you to know this. That was enough for me to wake up and say, okay, Mamie, it's not her job. You don't need to be picking on my friend. You need to be picking on me. Come to me and shake me. And I asked my friend, why isn't Mamie coming to me and doing this? She said, because she feels too much like your mother to spank you.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, my gosh.
I was just going to, quick ad I'll share with Tracy and Lonnie. You'll get a kick out of this, too. We've talked before about things that we moved just a little over 2 years ago, and have had some weird things almost from the minute we moved in here. And we've had some odd things happen while I'm doing the show here. But, well, last night, some of the things are we will get a cigarette smoke smell that kind of comes and goes, and none of us smoke. And I've had someone kind of pat me on the shoulder, pat me on the head while I've been laying in bed, and there's nobody there. And but last night I had fallen asleep downstairs. Everybody was going up to bed, and I was the only one downstairs sleeping. And I was probably sleeping for about an hour and a half when somebody whispered in my ear, "Those are the guys." Nobody there, obviously. I just heard this in my ear, so I promptly got up and went to bed rather quickly after that. But again, just kind of a
those are the guys.
Kind of
they said those are the guys.
It was a male voice, and those are the guys. Those are the guys. I have no idea. But I have absolutely no idea. But it just
You didn't stick around to find out, right?
I just, people will laugh, go, "You're an investigator, you should," but I won't investigate in my own house, and so I just decided, time to pack up and go to bed. Really quick, I did want to make sure before we ran out of time here, Darin, I know you have some events coming up, and so if you could tell us a little bit about those events, and if anyone out there is interested in learning more about you or contacting you, any info you'd like to pass along?
Well, for starters, thank you so much for having me on. I really had a great time, and I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Vitality, like I said, Emmaus, Pennsylvania, that's my office. I do healing retreats, which are kind of day-long intensives, where we marry a whole bunch of disciplines together in one event, where it's really designed for people. The name of the event is Breakthrough, and the name pretty much describes it. It's basically the idea of you go there with your old self, and you're prepared to leave your old self behind and come out of there new, refreshed, renewed, anew, with a whole different kind of perspective. And those take place 2 times a year. The next one is May 17th, and it's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, not far from Interstate 78, about an hour's drive from New York City, about an hour and a half from Philadelphia. People do fly in from all over the country and sometimes all over the world for these events, and they're amazingly powerful. That's vitalitiesbreakthrough.com is the website for that, and that's all one word, of course, Vitalities Breakthrough. And my actual office website is thevitalitycenter.com. That's thevitalitycenter.com. Most of the time I do, Matthew knows this and Tammy knows this, most of my life is spent when it's not with humans, it's with electrons on Facebook. So my professional Facebook page is facebook.com/yourvitality, and I can be contacted directly through Facebook as Darin Mazepa, which, Luana, I saw you already did that. Thank you very much for that. And,
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I have to say that Darin is such a beautiful light, and he has so much that he's offered the world, and he's helped so many people, and I'm just really honored that we have stayed friends all these years, and he's very, very talented practitioner.
Thank you for saying that. I say the same about you in all respects.
Thanks. And Matt, thank you so much for having me on also. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I feel very fortunate to know both of you, and as I said, I've known Darin for a very long time. And
all right, I'm going to throw the number out. Congratulations on being my friend in this year right now for 40 years.
No way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
I feel very fortunate in that I have people that I'm still in contact with that I've known like Darin since I was 4, 5, 6 years old. So feel very fortunate on that front. But
Matt, and you've never gotten an entrainment? What's up? You got to go get one from Dr. Darin.
Yeah, I will need to when I come back up to the Valley one of these times. So absolutely.
It'll be a friendship anniversary gift from me to you.
All right. Sounds good, sir. And Tammy, I know you said that if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, they can contact me either on my page or my Sunday Night Dead page, which if anyone hasn't checked those out, we have Sunday Night Dead Facebook page and YouTube page. But anything else you would like to share with the audience about what you're doing?
Thanks. Yes, I mean, I'm in the San Jose, California Bay area. I also do hands-on treatment up in that area. I do hands-on treatment when I go down to San Diego. I also do distant healing sessions with people. And if anyone wants to know more, I too am on Facebook under Tammy McGarry Nickel. Or can contact you, and you can get me in touch with them if there's anyone who'd like to know more about that. And I would love to talk with you. And this has been such a fun show to do. Thank you so much. I think, I don't know how to say it. Is it called a YouTube channel? It's I put a guided meditation on my YouTube channel, which is called Source Healing. And it's my first one. I plan to do more over the year. I look forward to doing that. And this one is an 11-minute guided meditation for finding peace and balance in your life in a stressful life. So check that out if you're interested. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And if anyone who's got the chat open, we've actually posted the link to that in the chat. So the link to that
thank you.
YouTube clip is there. And again, Darin and Tammy, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a great show, and I actually have a list of follow-ups, so I'll be asking you some more questions in the future here. But thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
And I thank the orb. I thank the orb.
the orbs were nice. The orbs were nice to us, so we got to be happy about that.
I set the intention that the orbs would be good to us tonight.
Oh, very good.
I love talking to you. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Tracy, and thanks, Darin. Love being your co-guest speaker, chatter. Thanks.
Thanks. Love it.
Thank
Love
you.
having you as my co-conspirator tonight. It was great.
Woohoo!
And Alana and Tracy, thank you. Alana and Tracy, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Well, we will see you all next week. Good night, everyone.
Yay.
Good night.
Namaste. Bye-bye.
Bye.